for like 100 years. Just thought nobody would mess with you. And then some goofball with a camera. Hey everyone, thank you for joining me, and a special thank you to the sponsor of this video, Keeps. I'll tell you more about them later, but first we're going to go outside and get started on today's project, which is to build a simple gate for the side porch of the house. Let's head on out there and take some measurements. Here's the porch, closed in using these fencing boards, cut down to size. I put them all tight, but now you can see after they've dried, they're all spaced out about 1/8 of an inch. Perfectly fine for this application, but something you may need to consider depending on your project. The opening is right here. You have to consider the slope of the ground. I've got a slight slope this way, so I think what I'm going to do is I'll have to come up here and have the bottom of the gate be level or be angled, and then I'll hinge it off of this 4x4 to where it swings out against the foundation. Looking at 2,000 centimeters tall and 2,500 centimeters wide. When you translate that to English, that's 58 inches tall by 45 inches wide. Building the gate inside on the close to flat floor. I'll be nailing it together using ring shank nails. These are galvanized, shooting them through a Harbor Freight nail gun. I've cut 3 center pieces, and then the outside vertical pieces, they were cut to the full 58 inches. And then for getting these measurements, just subtract 3 inches because you got 2 1.5 inch boards. They gave me 42 inch cross pieces. I'll nail the ones at the top and bottom, get the one in the middle centered, nail that one off, and put a cross brace across the backside. I want that to be the top left-hand corner of the gate on the outside, so this needs to go on the back side. So, it needs to be like that. So I'll get this nailed off and then trim off the extra. Let's check for squareness first. That probably locked it in, but a little under 74. We are not square. Check that first. Now you'll get a demonstration of why ring shank nails are so good. Measure corner to corner. If they're equal, you've got square. So 73.5. See, moved it a little bit. Let me see if it's correct. Yep. So we're squared up. Don't want to move the frame. And we'll get this nailed back down.
It was a morning in June when I heard that tune falling up to the beat of your heart. Like a white rain sails from a startled trail, our eyes met and then landed so well. Before you could speak, before you could weep, I held your hand in mine, like a shell on a beach, waiting for your reach, falling up to the mountain to climb. You came reassuring, Mother Nature's procuring, there's no need for doubt in His mind. You came reassuring, Mother Nature's procuring, there's no need for doubt in His mind. And our eyes align like the sun through the pines, in a silent space, in a cup full of time. In these orderly ways, in this disorderly life, I let go of my hand in the jar. For the great moon in the middle of June, falling up to the pole of the tide. Though I've seen it before, and I've ever been told, can touch this feeling inside. You came reassuring, Mother Nature's procuring, there's no need for doubt in His mind. You came reassuring, Mother Nature's procuring, there's no need for doubt in His mind. And our eyes align like the sun through the pines, in a silent space, in a cup full of time. In these orderly ways, in this disorderly life, I let go of my hand in the jar. And our eyes align like the sun through the pines, in a silent space, in a cup full of time. In these orderly ways, in this disorderly life, I let go of my hand in the jar. I let go of my hand in the jar. I let go of my hand in the jar.
Here it is, all complete except for a latch. Not sure what I'm going to do with this as far as whether it'll get painted eventually or just let it weather out. I mean, this will turn that in no time. I am going to end up doing something about this gap right here. Just to simplify it, I didn't want to have to cut that at an angle. So I'm going to probably put some bricks right on the back side of it just to keep things from crawling under there. Got an issue with cats going under here right now. All the dirt is really soft under there, so you can imagine what they're doing and what it may smell like standing right here inside of the door. So when I made the original frame, really wasn't thinking about the hinges, so that's why I came back in and added these extra 2x4s to be a bolting surface. So you can see that little lag bolt just poking through right there, so that strap goes right on those. But it's super solid, as you can see from me hanging on it. As far as a latch goes, I want to get some sort of a latch that can be locked, but does not require a lock to stay shut. So I'll just grab something next time I am at Lowe's. So these really nice big hinges came from Harbor Freight. They're real heavy duty for something like this, but long term it's best to go heavy duty on hinges. Same thing for the latch, and that's why I kind of built it as tough, I guess you could say, as I did. And if you wanted to, it wouldn't be a bad idea. I've got all these nails and all these boards and the diagonal. That's going to keep this thing together pretty good, but if somebody wanted to, they could run a few screws in there for pull-out strength here and there in strategic areas. I'm going to go with it for now. I'll tighten it up if anything occurs in the future. This video is sponsored by Keeps, who revolutionized the way men are treated for hair loss. Keeps offers generic versions of the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products out there. You may have already tried these of other brands, but I guarantee you didn't try them for these prices. 2 out of 3 guys will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time they are 35. The best way to prevent hair loss is doing something about it while you still have hair. Keeps offers scientifically proven treatments that can combat the symptoms of hair loss. With a great website, they make it easy and deliver your medication every 3 months. With Keeps, you can visit a doctor online and get your hair loss medication delivered directly to your home. The treatments that Keeps offers can take 4 to 6 months or more to see results, so it's important to act fast. The sooner you start using Keeps, the more hair you'll save. Keeps was good enough to offer me a custom URL to put in the description below to help save my viewers big on their first order. If you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/homemade-home. Again, that is KEEPS.com/homemade-home and save 50% on your first order. Next thing I want to do is address the lighting for the stairs going into the basement. I'd like to put a work box right here where you can flip a switch on, light up the stairwell, as well as turn on the light down here in this room too. From the living room, I can show you how I go about this. So I just measure up 48 inches. Then I take the work box, and one thing I want to show you, let me see. You can see these little tabs here and here. That's to offset the box for drywall. So you just slide it up against those tabs to the stud, come down to your line, wherever you want it, height-wise. Under the bottom plate of this wall, there's a beam, so what I'm going to do is the wire will come down and then through the studs and go down through the floor underneath the first step up to the landing and then over to the box. For drilling the holes, I just usually drill them about at the height as if your drill was sat on the bottom plate and go right across, keeps them pretty straight. The current light here in the basement is just temporary. I just wired up some light down here, so I need to turn the power off to that box. For that, nothing's labeled, so I just need to go through here and find it. That's it. So I will get this turned off, move the light over to an extension cord, and then I can pull this wire out. Here's the breaker for that circuit. Only thing attached to the breaker is the black hot wire. The neutral's going to the neutral bar, and then the ground is attached to multiple grounds right here by this wire nut. So I need to undo all that, but these two right here are the dangerous ones, and of course the bars that all the breakers are attached to. So these are hot. These will shock you. I'm a foot off those, just to be clear. There we are right up on them. But I don't want to risk the ground going over into that, and just so basically just to be safe, I'm going to turn the box off from the disconnect that's outside. Just turning the breaker off here will turn the breakers off, but there's still power supplied to the box. Just to be clear, if anyone ever dares open a box hot. So I'm not filming in the dark. I've got the generator on, running the light in the basement. It's a very handy generator. It's the inverter one from Harbor Freight, 3,500 watts. The wire that I'm pulling out is a 12 gauge wire on a 20 amp circuit. I need a 14 gauge wire on a 15 amp circuit, so I'll be removing this, starting with popping the wire and then loosening it, its clamp, and then pulling it out. Never have what you need. Here we are inside the box. This is the wire. I've brought it down through the wire connector. For now I'm leaving it loose. This is the slot we'll be utilizing. A new 15 amp breaker. Well, it's not actually a new one, but a 15 amp breaker will go right there. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and strip the jacket off the wire using this tool right here. I can't think what it's called. Somebody go ahead and say it down below. They're made by different companies. There's a little hook inside. You hook that on the jacket. Kind of works like a thread ripper in the sewing world, and then you just slide it right up the wire. I think I came out of the wire. There we go. And all that is doing is just splitting that jacket without the chance of hurting the wire. So I'm going to split it up to there. Then there's a little blade on this side. You can stick that in there and pull it. You're going to have some paper inside the wire. Go ahead and tear that off. And then we're going to need, well, we're going to probably trim the wire. So I'm going to pull this wire back out. And that is more than enough. So I've pulled it up to where that jacket is still protecting the wire all the way down into the box. And I'm going to tighten up the wire connector from there. It's just a little clamp basically, so you don't need to see that, because you can't. I'm probably going to shake the camera. Okay, good enough. So that's not going anywhere now. Now I'm going to try to, this box is, for me, it's a mess. I've come in here and put in a few circuits and tried to straighten things up, but always try to wire your box in a way that just makes it easy to deal with in the future, if need be, or someone else is dealing with it. This person that wired this one, or the multiple people who wired this one, did not. And this is why I'm turning this box off right now, because the bare copper ground wire, you know, flopping all around like that, you could easily hit something you don't want to hit. So what I'm doing is I'm getting these wires, for me as well, I could do it, get the wires over to the side of the box as quickly as you can, to where they're not all just crisscrossing across here. The neutral is going right here. So I'm coming down. The other thing I like to take that 90 and go to the side of the box is, watch what can happen with that corner. You can always pull that down and get a little extra wire in the future if you need to. So I do that, and what I'm doing is there's a bar right there with all those set screws. I don't know if you can see that. You just have to take my word for it. I come down to the one I want to go to. I go 90, and then I slide my thumb and I go, I want to cut it right there. Cutters. Gonna snip the wire. Next thing I'm gonna do, grab this tool again, and you'll see the little part on here that is a wire stripper, and it has different increments. All I do is I go over to the other side, spin it around with that little blade touching the wire, then you pull it off and it exposes a little bit of the end of the wire. Then I'm going to fish this wire behind these and tighten up that set screw. And another thing to say, this is just a safety thing, but a very important safety thing. When you're working on the inside of a box like this, and you're on an active job site, meaning there's other people there working with you, or either not, if there's any way for somebody to turn the power back on, you need to be real careful. I'm just, basically, there's no reason anyone should turn the power on. I'm here working on this house on my own. But if you were there with someone else and they said, well, what's wrong? And they went out there and flipped that disconnect, power would come back onto this box. And again, if you switch this off, in addition, all you're doing is stopping power to come to the breakers, but those two hots on the two service entrance cables are still hot. So I'm onto the black wire now. This is the hot that runs down to the breaker. So the white is the neutral, goes to the neutral bar. Black is the hot that goes to the breaker. This is what's actually supplying power. I bend it. Then we're going to get the breaker. Again, this is a 14 amp. So we need a 15 amp breaker. Here's one. And how breakers attach. This is the side that's doing the pulling power from the bar. From the bar that runs in the box, and then it goes through the breaker, through the actual switch, and then to the actual wire with this little wire clamp right there. So that just snaps in right here. And then you want to do the same thing. This gets easier, or you do this. Snip your wire to length, and then strip it using whatever tool you have. I just like these little things. They call lil something and others. Wire stripped. And again, you want to make sure your wire's wherever you want it, tucked back. Which breaker is it? Right here. And it's the same thing on the breaker pretty much. There's a screw in this occasion, a flat head, flat drive screw, straight bladed screwdriver, and it's got a clamp which is basically like a square washer. So you tighten down on that. How tight? Snug it up pretty good. And then I'll get my wire all nice and neat. So that breaker's in now. So if I went outside, turned the disconnect back on, and flipped this on, I would have power to the end of that wire, but we're not ready to do that yet. Then for the ground, there is a ground bar screw to the box on this side. I could get down to it, but it's behind a lot of wires. I'm going to just go ahead and do what they had it, how they had it before, which was this box was updated at some point, and what that means is that they extended the wire. So there's wire nuts in here where old wires were extended to get to the new position of the breakers. So I am going to tie into that extension, and this is fine because it's inside of the box. And this is the ugly box. I've got to blow this thing out and do all kinds of stuff. One thing to note, these little things also, the end that you use for cutting stuff, and then removing the jacket, you can see the shape in it. That fits right on to wire nuts with wings and allows you to twist them. So that circuit is done being wired. While I'm in the box, this wire right here is coming out, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that. That was a 15 amp circuit. Could have kept that one for use on that one. So we'll pull that out. Go ahead and get this out of the box. And if you're ever wiring something and end up in a situation where there's a breaker missing, you can just reposition all these up if you wanted to. But if you don't want to, you can just get a plate that fills it in on the panel door, which on this box, I'm not sure if I will or not have to do something like that. So that was the hot removed. And then undo the neutral, and this wire doesn't have ground. This is a leftover wire from past wiring of the house. So it was a wire that wasn't doing anything at all, but it was still hooked up to a breaker that could have been turned on, and it was just somewhere in the wall like that. So that's one thing you really have to keep an eye out for in old houses like this. Especially while you're working on something. If you find a wire in a wall, you can't assume that it's not on. In my house that I live in, when I rewired that house, I was redoing the kitchen, tearing a wall out, and I was tearing the drywall off, and there was a work box inside the wall, and there was no plate on it or anything like that, but it had been actually been plastered over. And when I got to it, the wire was just in the box, and I just happened to have this tool right here with me. It sniffs out electricity. You just touch it to the wire, and it beeps and glows red. And I just put it on there, and it went off. And I just happened to have this right with me. Otherwise, I would have probably just pulled it out, but I checked it, and it was hot. That's another thing. Like in this box right now, most all these breakers are turned off because I'm only using a few circuits to do lights and receptacles in the house. So when you're doing stuff, you might as well just turn everything off except for a few things, and then you know what you're working with. And then if you find something, just don't touch anything, because sometimes things will be tied in somewhere you won't expect it. I've actually seen it too, where you'd have basically two circuits or two breakers inside of a box tied together, where I flipped one off, but it wasn't actually flipping it off because it had power going. I mean, you can find some nutty stuff in houses when it comes to electricity. And electricity is one of those ones, plumbing can be bad, it can damage a lot of stuff, but a plumbing issue most likely isn't going to kill you, and it's be a very weird circumstance to have plumbing kill you. Electricity is the thing in a house that can get you, whether it be to burn something down or shock you badly or electrocute you, Electrocute means dead. Ow! Safety glasses. Ow! Safety glasses. Okay, so that runs power from the box to this light. Now we're going to take a box from this work box through the same holes back across that joist, through the wall, and then up to the switch at the top of the steps. And Romex pulls really nice too. I mean, it has its limits, but it's pretty slick stuff. Here's the work box above the door. Those wires run over through the stringer. One's running down to the switch, the other one runs to the other work box. So basically, power's going from the breaker box through both lights to the switch, and I'll show you how that wires up in a second. And then that wire's running down through the bottom of this wall. The reason I place wires about that tall is you're high enough to where any kind of nailing for a baseboard isn't going to hit those wires, but you're down low enough to where you're just in that area that there's really not much attached to walls down there. I would never run wires like right at sort of face level, because that's where the majority of any kind of nails are going to go into walls for hanging pictures and other types of stuff. You have different options of how you wire up lighting circuits depending on kind of the layout, meaning if the wire goes from the breaker panel to the switch, then to the light, or to the light, then down to the switch. So depending on where you're going, sometimes it's easier and you can save wire doing it one way over another. And lighting can actually get pretty complicated once you introduce different types of switch, meaning like three-way switches where you can turn it on and off from different locations. This is very simple. Power is going from the breaker box to the light, then down to the switch. And I discussed this in my last video. People ask, how do you know how to do stuff? The answer, and I know this will bother some people, a lot of times is Google, and specifically Google Images. So there's a diagram showing you exactly how to do it. In the case of doing this, I know how to do this. I've done it a bunch of times, but I wanted to show y'all that's how you do it. So what that's illustrating is that the power is coming from right here. So the black wire gets wired to the white wire that runs from the light to the switch. Then what you do is you wrap tape around that white wire, black electrical tape. That indicates that it's a hot wire in case someone ever opens it up. Then the neutral wire runs down to the light. Then a black wire, the one that goes in between the light and the switch, gets hooked up to the light, then hooked up to one of the posts on the switch, and then the other neutral gets attached to the switch itself, and again another little ring of black tape around it. So I'm going to be doing that exact thing here. First step, strip the jacket off the Romex using the handy dandy tool. That just pushes all the way up into the box. Pull that. Then I just pull that until it breaks normally. That's stretched out pretty good, so I'll trim a little bit off that. Break the paper off. So these have the push fittings. Some people don't like them. I'm going to use it. Most of the time I twist it on in case I want to change something. But I'll roll the dice here. So I'm stripping off the insulator off of the conducting wires, which in this case is both the hot and the neutral. One goes in one goes in the other. This little tool here has some other holes in it. Put that ground in there, roll it over, and I've got a loop in the wire that fast. And that's for the ground. Handy to use a driver for this stuff. Some people say you should still hand tighten them in the end. I think once you have the touch for using your driver, it's fine to do that. The other thing we need to do, like I said, we're going to mark this neutral as a hot with a piece of black tape. So if you ever see a wire outside of a black or red, and it's got a little piece of tape around it like that, that's what that's supposed to mean. I'm also going to do this. I don't always do it, but I will right now. First I gotta tighten these posts down, and then I'm going to run electrical tape to cover up. Those screws are unused, but they're still hot, so get them taped up. And then get everything pushed back into the box. And you just want to make sure that your ground wire is not touching anything. You don't want to run these in too tight because it is just going into the plastic plug box. That's one thing it's easy to do with a driver. So now that is wired in. So now I'll get this light wired. One moment, please. Alright, the disconnect has been turned back on, so power's coming to the box. Breaker's on. Let's go flip that switch up there together. I haven't done it yet, just in case it burns up wires and does bad stuff. I want to include you in on it. Okay. Here's the switch and the light. Nothing's happening. Hold, please. This video is an excellent example of me ensuring you all that I do not always know what I'm doing. I think what I've got going on here is normally when I've done this, it's just been one light to a switch, not multiple lights leading to a switch. So I wired this one instinctively how I wired that one when I think I'm not supposed to connect the white and black at this point of the light. I'm supposed to wait till I get up there. About to find out. I'm going to switch these and just turn it on and see what happens. One thing that's easy to do when you're doing all this back and forth turning breakers on and off is to lose track that you have not turned your breaker either on or off. If you haven't turned it on yet, nothing's going to happen, but if you haven't turned it off and you need it off, you can end up touching something, have something pop on you. I've done that before, you know, with screwdrivers, and luckily I was touching everything I was touching was insulated, so it didn't really matter. So let me redo this. I think I am 100% right at the moment, but we're definitely going to find out. It's either going to turn on or it's going to trip the breaker or blow a wire up. Just going to trip a breaker. One thing to note is a lot of times people are so afraid of electric because they'll do something wrong. But if you don't do it right, it's not going to work. So you end up fixing it. So it's not the biggest deal if you do something wrong. Yeah, I'm 100% right on this. I don't know why I didn't catch this. Don't worry, I'm not blaming it on y'all. But some of this stuff does require some tiny level of focus, and making videos sometimes, you know, I'm thinking about trying to finish this video and get the video out by the next 2 days instead of common sense. Oops. That's probably using the driver. Alright, see if my light switch is flipped on. Oh, turn on the breaker first. Well, there you have it. I don't know how I'm going to edit the video yet, but the final result of the lighting was I've got the single light down here with a pull chain, turn it on and off, and then the light at the top of the steps, which is on the switch. So that just needs a cover plate on this at this point, and of course there'll probably be some drywall on the inside since this wire is running through the wall. And that light may look like it's sticking down, but that's a rough opening, the door jamb. The actual door will be lower. So the way this wire works, circuit I mean, is you've got your breaker. Wire runs off the breaker, out the box, along the joist, supplies power to this box, and then we're jumping power off of this light, which goes up to that one. So this one, you just turn on once you get down here. It's too bright down here right now because it's daytime to show you, how much light this will provide. What I'll end up doing is replacing this one up here. It's just a little soft white 60 watt equivalent bulb up there right now, but I'm going to replace it with a really bright, like 100 watt equivalent LED cooler light, which will be super bright. So when you turn this on, it's going to light up enough to come down here and turn this on. I could have wired this up to where this one turned on as well. Kind of like the idea of them being separate, but I like the idea of them being together as well, but this is just how it turned out. So moving on. Once it got dark, I thought that the staircase could still use a little more light, so I ran a wire from the light up there back through the same holes, and then added another one down here at the bottom of the steps. Now you have a much better lit staircase. Kind of weird lighting down here right now. The camera is adjusted to it weird, but it's plenty bright enough to come down here. And then the pull chain is on this light here. I'm pleased to say that that will wrap this video up. This has been a rough video for me to get out due to my schedule. Things did not go as smooth as I originally planned. I wanted these lights to just turn on with one flip of a switch. All of them turn on at once. I have since figured out how I need to do it using some 14-3 wire from this light up to the other one. Need that extra conductor to make what I wanted to have be possible. What I've got right now is fine since I've got this light down here at the bottom. Once those are on, coming down here and turning on the light that's down here is no problem. But I would still rather it be when you flip that switch up here, it just turns everything on, because when you're coming down you want them all on, and once you go back up you want to be able to turn them all off. So it makes sense for it to all be on one switch, and it's not that many lights to be on one switch. So I think I may end up doing that, which would involve just running a wire from the light at the bottom of the stairwell back to that light. Then the wires that are in that work box can just be tied together with wire nuts, so it'll act as a junction box, and then the hot that will feed off of this light at the bottom of the stairwell will be the one to power that light. So then everything would be on one switch, I hope, and I could run another one over to that room as well. The little door for the porch, that one pretty smooth. It just, didn't kind of plan in those 2x4s for the hinges, but that's no big deal. I just tossed those in real quick. Next up, I need to paint this house soon. It's starting to cool down. As you can see, I'm wearing a jacket, and it's sort of the perfect time of the year, I'd say, to paint stuff. A lot of times people think, paint something in the summertime outside, but that aluminum siding is just boiling hot in the summer. Right now, it's just cool. It's dry as long as it's not raining, so it's a good time to paint the house. I need to get it pressure washed. Probably going to paint the house white. And I'll just do it one section at a time with a sprayer. I just need to figure out what is the best affordable paint to paint an aluminum house, which is probably going to the best thing to do would be to do the best paint that someone can suggest. So I would like y'all's suggestion on that. If there's any painters watching these videos, what do you use to paint aluminum siding? Is some issues. You can't just use any old paint for it, I don't think. Currently it's painted white. It's just the, normal aluminum finish. It comes on siding, so it's the original white. It's all chalky, needs to be cleaned off. I think that's about it. I need to get that figured out soon. I need to get this house rolling. If you can't tell, I'm a little ragged out right now. Not only am I putting out these videos every week, but that's requiring me to work on the house a lot, and then I'm fitting in some other stuff that I do not talk about here in these videos, and then other stuff like working on the other house. So I'm rolling 100 miles an hour right now, and looking forward to getting this house checked off of the list. That's it. Check out the description below. It's going to have the link to my ebook, How to Buy These Houses, Find Them, how you find super duper cheap houses. Then I have the cash contract, which is just a very simple one-pager to put together a contract for deals like this, all cash purchases. The PayPal donation link if you just want to do that, support the channel. What else? First link down there will be to the sponsor Keeps of this video. Check them out if that applies to you. If you got some issues on top, they will hit. Other than that, thank you all for watching. Look forward to seeing you next time. Ask all the questions you want in the comments below, and I'll try to do another Q&A at the end of an upcoming video. Thanks for watching. What's that? Yeah, it's that noise. What is that? Oh, is that you? I can't hear you all the way down there. A little disappointed about how things have been going lately. I don't blame you. Yeah, I think it's obvious. I really don't have your best interest in mind. I'm trying to work, man. You gotta quit bothering me. Yeah, I've got a sponsor for the video. It's Keeps. What about it? I don't need to take a closer look. I can see it. You're thinning. Look around you. God, man, you're hitting the nail right on the head. The girl blocks aren't going to be into this at all. This is what they want. Your mom is a liar. The girls are not going to like that. You believed your mom when she said that girls were into this? I'm not even going to start with that. Of course they would send me some, but I'm not going to waste it on you. Do you want me to get some of that expanding demolition foam everybody keeps telling me about in the comments below? What? Oh, what's that? You don't think I actually know about all those little wedges that could just bust you into pieces? Drop it! Oh, yeah, I forgot about how hard I can be. Well, yeah. Oh, look at that. You wish you could put a little more Keeps on there. Yeah, I get it. You're a concrete block. You can't go to the doctor for this problem. What's it got to do with Keeps? Look, man, I've already told you this isn't the product for you. Clearly, you're a concrete block and you've been busted down to size. So, what do you want to know about Keeps for anyway? I don't care what they offer. You're not going to have an online visit with a doctor. Look at yourself. You're a concrete block in a $9,000 house. They deal with men. Listen, man, you can trust me when I tell you you've got bigger problems. No, I mean, of course I've got some, but I got 3 months supply of it. It's extremely cheap. Man, don't be calling me a cheapskate. You're talking to a boss here. You can throw my words in my face, man. Of course they offer great deals. It's FDA approved, but it ain't for concrete. Yeah, why don't you go, order it yourself? Ain't got no internet? I mean, don't be calling me names. Throwing words around. What'd you say about a 35-year-old man? You're not going to pull that one on me. You think that's going to work on me? You're not going to get in my head, bro. Is that true? No. Say it again. Come on, man. We're old friends here. We're old friends. Just, there you go. Tell me. Come on. 2 out of 3 men. I don't believe it. You serious? I'm 33! I just don't think it's a problem that I'm going to have, though. What's the chance of me being one of the 2? You're serious. Come on, man. Tell me. What's it looking like up there? All right, 1 squirt. If I give you just a little right down the middle, will you just... Yeah, it's not going to do anything. You want it anyway. Yeah, ready instructions. Know what I'm doing. Back off. That's all you're getting anyway. Let's get back to the process.